Wait for it. Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans, a stabby chaos coordinator, and one chief shenanigator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let our guests introduce themselves to our listeners and viewers at home, starting with you, Mr. Bill McCushton.
I'm Bill McCushton. I write Zorn, which is not a frontier-based story, but it's fun nonetheless.
Fun is good. All right, next we have Miss Jenna S. Brown, who sometimes cosplays as Jenna Ray.
Hi guys, I'm Jenna S. Brown. I write under the pen name Jenna Ray. That's where all of the random speculative stuff goes. I have other pen names for other things. I am the chief shenanigator around here, which is, I say it's often a cross between a den mother and a cat herder. I have a large umbrella, and that's how Mythbusters proved that you herd cats, was that you just kind of use the umbrella thing, which I think they learned from Indiana Jones. So we're good. We're happy to be here. It's going to be fun.
Indiana Jones taught us a lot of other nice things, like the basic fundamentals of martial artistry. Mm-hmm. And you pull the pistol.
Yeah, use the gun.
Yep. Use the gun.
No.
Be a tool using
American food.
And when in doubt, frags out. That's all I got to say. Speaking of use the gun, we have Mr. Jesse James Fain, outlaw author himself, who also likes to write about stabbing people with his American foo.
Yeah. Hey everybody, I am Jesse James Fain and or Tyra Strake, depending on how much sex you like with your violence. I am the author of Graysinger. I'm also the founder of Assassin Inc., the publishing brand, and I write sword fights, fist fights, gun fights, anything I can squeeze a fight into.
Now you missed the most important part. You are now, sir, at the time of this airs, a successful Kickstarter veteran because you're self-funded in like the first 14 minutes.
Yeah, it was like 45, but yeah.
Funded nicely.
I mean, I just subtracted like 45% of that. Don't ask me to do math. Just go with it. Next, we have Mr. Keith Hedger. We won't hold it against him that he's a treadhead, though.
You're muted.
He's muted. Try again. There we go.
I am not a treadhead.
You write about them, so you get branded by default.
Okay. I'm fair. I have written about tanks a lot. Actually, I was an engineer in the Army, and I am the writer of the Burning Bad Karma series, and I am Ronin Actual and Defiant House Entertainment, a brand new publishing company. I just got started.
So when you see people mocking engineers by showing, how does an engineer solve the puzzle and he just blows the puzzle up, do you get offended when you see those memes, or do you feel like you're being called out?
No, I'm pretty sure we were trying to figure out how to mow the lawn with C4. So,
I mean, when C4 first came out, they had to tell the engineers they couldn't eat it. So,
we like watching people make coffee with it because it's like that's not a good idea, guys.
Well, I mean, it's pretty stable.
The chemistry.
They
would know the chemistry around it.
They did in Vietnam. They would use it, like burn it for.
They really did.
Although I guess they had enough other things to worry about that, C4 was the least of their concerns.
Yeah, they weren't worried about the long-term effects, I don't think. So.
No, I don't. That's where the expression, what do you do, bend my dog tags and send me to Vietnam, which we totally stole for the global war on terror.
Fair.
So, all right. Now, what kind of engineer were you? Were you the road building or the road destruction kind of engineer?
We were the road building, but we kept having to do all the other stuff too. So
you were the kind that worked sometimes with the EOD then?
We didn't back at the day, but not directly with the EOD, but we got trained on all that good stuff.
Okay. All right. And because we like to include everybody in this little shindig.
Yep.
What's that?
I was just saying, yep.
I missed something. Yep to what? I feel like I'm a loon now.
Including everyone.
Yes.
I haven't forgotten you. I was about to introduce you.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
All right, and next we have Miss Melissa McShane of War Master, War Hamster, and the War Mistress of the podcast.
That's right. Hi, I'm Melissa McShane. I am the author of many fantasy novels, including the historical fantasy series The Extraordinaries and the urban fantasy series The Last Oracle, as well as lit RPG The War Master series, and which is now complete at 10 volumes, and I'm very excited about that. And I am glad to be here.
All right, the next time I write a fantasy story that I need a war god, I'm going to have to include you. You'll just be like the war goddess. So
Okay.
War Mistress, it works.
Fair.
Do you think that counts as a tax deductible occupation? What did you do today,
You know what?
IRS? Oh, I just,
Yeah.
burned a few nations down.
That's right. I provided, guns and ammo to a warring nation. I guess
There you
that's good omens, but okay. Yeah,
All
I
right.
don't know. I don't think that's tax deductible. But if
No,
you
it's-
blow up the people who are charging you tax, then that's the same thing.
I mean, I know there are some churches that would find a way to make it titleable, though. And no, I wasn't even
Probably.
speaking of yours. So normally we go light on the religion questions on these panels because we want to get to the meat and potatoes of the topic without the episodes being 2+ hours, because Janet gets really, really mad at me when I go long. But this one, it feels
I'm
kind
old.
of
I have to go to bed.
this one feels kind of appropriate with these religion questions because it's directly on point. So, if you were exiled to a remote speculative fiction frontier tomorrow, would you rather be stationed in some muddy Roman-esque wooden fort in a fantasy world, or some space station at the ass end of the galaxy? And we'll just start with you, Bill. We'll just go around robin, around circle up.
I mean, I know what I really want to say, but I also know which of those two answers you gave I would give to satisfy the question. Would we count the zone from Roadside Picnic as a frontier?
I don't know what that is, so I will smile and say yes.
Okay. Well, in case it doesn't count, I'll say, Deep Space, because sci-fi writer here. But basic premise: Roadside Picnic. Aliens landed on Earth, left their trash, and so the places that they landed and had their roadside picnics at became these enigmatic zones full of these ancient artifacts. Like, the entire environments and ecosystems of these places has been altered. Like, they're just these pits of human intrigue in the book, where people are going in, finding what they can, and bringing it out for research. And not everyone makes it back alive. And some people wish they did not make it back alive.
Because they had to pay taxes on what they found?
So give you a little bit of context of what's in the zone. Surprisingly enough, I would rather taxes than some of the stuff they describe in the book.
Wow.
There's something called hell slime that turns your bones into rubber. There's a dude that gets his leg amputated because he walked into... It's never clear, but he ended up in some, and so his leg started turning into this rubbery thing, and that was spreading. And so in order to save his life, they had to take him to a back alley doctor to amputate his leg.
Ooh, dude.
That doesn't sound pleasant.
That's
No,
terrible.
but just think about it. Alien artifacts pushing humans ahead. Like, the aliens considered it trash, but the zone itself is a gold mine. And the book even goes into what the glory days of the stalkers, the people that go into the zone to find these artifacts, what it was like. And it just sounds dangerous, but it sounds like so much fun. But if that's not an acceptable frontier, I'll go Deep Space, because that's fine, whatever.
Jesse?
I am not a scientist. I have much more experience fighting than trying to keep a space station going. I'm absolutely going with the Romanesque. I will most likely live longer fighting monsters with Pelham and tower shields than I would trying to keep a space station running.
All right. Melissa.
Well, since muddy equals not very sanitary equals probably dysentery, I'm going to go with the lonely deep space station because I like toilets.
Yeah, but you could always like boil your own water so you don't get the dysentery.
Yeah, because that's fun. Our hometown just had a boil order because somebody crossed the streams and put the secondary water into the culinary water, and they had to. I'm not there, so it didn't affect me as much. But my children had to boil water before they could use it, and that's not fun. So yeah, and I don't know. I think the idea of having to keep a space station going and figure out all the different systems is kind of interesting. But then I was a science nerd in high school, so there you go.
All right, Keith.
All right. Okay. So since I write cyberpunk and any frontier you find is likely to be bad, I'd go with the fantasy Romanesque where at least somebody with magic can take care of some of this stuff. And I'm not trying to keep a space station and my oxygen supply going.
Okay. I'm resisting the urge to make the Ghostbuster quote for you, Melissa, though. I just want you to know that.
Well, that's why I said it, because, that's a good reference. And, crossing the streams in this case was also very bad.
Oh,
So
yeah.
can we call this the Egon Spengler maneuver then, if they cross the stream?
I think that gives it too much coolness for the water thing, for what it was. But, yeah, I think that makes it a little too cool.
Yeah, we don't want giving your friends dysentery to be cool.
That's right. It's gross.
Yeah. All right, Jana.
Well, I do live in Melissa's hometown and dealt with the boil order, and it was not a big deal. But that's why I think I would stick with the fort and the things that I already understand, because I grew up farming, I grew up fighting, I grew up doing things on this planet, and I understand the way those rules work. I always worry about that whole, if I have no oxygen, I just float off into space and freeze to death thing, and I don't want to do that very badly.
I mean, there's more to it than just that.
Yeah, you do more than freeze.
Freezing to death would be optimal.
Well, yes,
actually.
But, point being,
You're not selling this, Bill.
I want to die that way. So,
why do you think I said the zone, JR?
I have good cast iron here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you said you grew up fighting, is it because you have siblings? You are wrestling cows out in the country, or are there past MMA career you didn't tell us about?
I studied martial arts, and then I ran a medieval reenactment group for almost a decade. So I have done sword and shield and archery and the whole 9 yards. I can and will kick your ass.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I would probably go with the fantasy, Romanesque style, only because most of the quality of life things, if you come in with our knowledge, we could fix for ourselves, even at small scale. Even if I couldn't give myself Romanesque pipes, because that's a huge endeavor, I could still do the things to make it livable. I can't do anything if the oxygen is just not there on a space station. And while I write the science, I know nothing about the science. I majored in liberal arts for a reason, because me and math just don't get along. So yeah, probably safest for me, even though I think the space station would be cool, probably safest for me to keep my feet firmly on terra firma. So, all right. So what is your absolute favorite comfort food that you'd miss if you ended up getting sent off to a frontier from one of the books, shows, or movies or games that we've all know and love? Bill.
I mean, if I got my choice and I could just visit the zone, then all I have to do is make sure I get back home alive, and then, survive the terrors of the zone, and also survive the security detail trying to keep people out of the zone, and I'll be fine. I can go home and eat a Snickers bar and watch a movie and be fine. Now, if I'm in space, I am going to miss that Snickers bar. And chances are the people I'm with probably won't have a refined taste as I do. And so I'll be stuck watching a bunch of garbage movies instead of some like really highbrow classics such as Hobo with a Shotgun.
Right.
Nice to know you have standards.
I do have standards.
Hey, Bill liked The Last Unicorn, so he has standards.
I will say that even, the most far-flung of far-flung frontiers, the ability to come home was always, assuming you lived, was always an option. Well, maybe not if we're sending our first Mars colony kind of thing, but as a general rule, a frontier was not always, this is a one-way trip.
No,
So-
but in space and with deep space exploration, it's
Generally for that it is, you're right.
yeah, it would
Yeah.
start out like that as it would take some time to figure out how to bend time and space to enable the FTL travel that you see in things like Star Trek or Star Wars.
You just have to pack enough Snickers bars.
There you go. Jesse's here or find the replicators.
Yeah.
Because you're not you when you're hungry.
Yep. All right, what about you,
No, I'm
Jesse?
not.
Well, I picked the Romanesque, but it said like fantasy. Fantasy generally implies some kind of magic. The big thing for me is ice. I don't like drinking warm drinks, and that would be a huge comfort, quality of life thing for me. Would be just being able to have ice water, cold soda, that kind of thing. Would be more important to me than any one individual like food.
JR.
Okay, I think we lost JR for a minute. He may be with the puppy. So, Melissa,
No, actually, I just didn't realize I was muted, so I was talking to myself.
nice.
I will
It's your
say,
turn anyway.
if I seem to remember from high school science class, that was many years ago, there is some chemical that if you add water, it sucks the heat out of things. So if you created that and then put your cup in it, you could get ice. Just with basic science that doesn't require a lot. But I'd have to remember the formula. And I know we used it in this high school like physics experiment or chemistry or whatever, where you make ice cream. It's just been, like I said, it's been a hot minute. But yes, ice is a good thing. And even Melissa agrees on ice. She bought a special machine to give her ice.
That's right. I have an ice maker on my counter.
Are you
the
leaving
fridge
that with
doesn't do
you
it.
for your next
Well, we're going to try and sell it, but I'm not. None of the appliances I have here will work in the U.S. because
Oh,
the
that's right, the
current is
voltage issue,
different.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but I like Jesse's answer. Ice is important. Yeah. Oh, he's talking to himself again.
Yep, I said not food, but ice. Well done, Melissa. I can appreciate the value of ice. What about you, Keith?
Yeah.
Comfort food. Easy make mac and cheese.
Okay.
You stick me out in the frontier. I mean, okay, if I'm on a space station with a replicator, would that still be the same? Because replicators, depending on your setting, can be all over the place. And in, a more austere place, having time to make cheese is kind of a complicated thing.
Yeah.
All right, just because it was bugging me, I did a quick Google search with my memory references. It's ammonium nitrate that if you put the chemical in a bowl and then you put a little bit of water in it, causes the reaction. You put the cup or whatever the container is with water, it sucks the heat out of it, and you've got ice with that. There you go.
Okay.
Although I don't know how easy ammonium nitrate would be to source outside of a lab.
Well, see, I'm on a space station, so I got it.
Well, yeah, you just make
Of
your
course,
own.
I'm on
somewhere
the
on
space
the
station,
space
so I also have an ice maker. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
So quick search to answer that. Ammonium nitrate is highly water soluble, making its occurrence as a natural mineral exceedingly rare. It is almost exclusively manufactured industrially.
Well, dang it! There goes our plan to make ice.
Yeah.
We just need wizards. You're a wizard, Jesse.
Or go carve ice out of the nearest glacier iceberg and transport it packed in straw. I mean,
That's
you go.
really
That's how they did it. So you could have ice.
Just
just be
become
really
a frost
hard.
wizard.
Yeah.
To become a frost wizard.
Yeah.
That'd be really powerful magic in a desert.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You'd be very much desirable.
You'd have all the wives.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, Jana, don't forget to unmute yourself this time.
I'm unmuted.
There we go. Comfort
Garden
food. you miss.
salsa, sun chips.
That's very specific. Why garden salsa, not just generic salsa?
Because that's the flavor that it comes in. There are 4 flavors of sun chips. I like them all, but garden salsa is my guilty pleasure one.
Oh, I thought you meant like garden salsa as in like separate that you would dip the sun chips in. Not garden
No,
salsa.
I can make that at any point. But it's one of those highly processed foods that I don't get to have very often because it's terrible for me. But it is kind of a little comfort food that as I look at the other things that I could just make myself, which is most of them, it's some of the stuff that has random highly processed in it that I would not be able to lay hands on. So since I was craving that earlier today and I do not have any more bags of it and it's not something that I can just turn on and make, it's on the top of my list for things I would miss. Garden salsa sun chips.
Because I was going to make a really bad joke and ask you if the salsa was made in New York City, but now it doesn't land.
No, it doesn't.
New York City.
No, real salsa is easy to make. I have plenty of stuff for that.
If I was going to miss something, I tend to like stuff that's not great and generally speaking processed. So like I love me some Mike and Ike's. The best thing for my diet was they got so expensive I can't afford them anymore. Thank you, economy, helping people lose weight with the poverty diet plan. I'd miss that. I like peanut butter and chocolate, like the Reese's peanut butter cups, but I imagine that wouldn't be as hard to make if you had the raw ingredients. I've seen people make their own where they like made strawberry filled ones and then they like put it in the freezer kind of thing. So the recipe didn't look that hard. Of course, that's the other thing.
I make them at Christmas, but see, the key is that the actual recipe that they use for Reese's, there's a process wherein they burn the peanut butter. It's taken to a different temperature, and that's why if you make your own Buckeyes or that kind of thing, it doesn't taste exactly the same as the Reese's because they do a different process with the peanut butter.
That's the other thing is I haven't done a lot of the research like Melissa has for her food scenes, and maybe you have, Jana, but like I understand that I'm used to, I want a flavor, I go to the grocery store spice aisle, grab what I need, and I walk out. Like that becomes a whole big different thing when you're in a sort of quasi-medieval world. Most of us have enough to buy several kingdoms of spices in our pantries alone compared to what like royalty had. So that'd be a hard one is to source, I guess. So maybe one of the things I would miss in addition to Mike and Ike's and Reese's peanut butter cups would be actual spices, just because it's flavor, or even something as simple as salt. But I also coffee.
Salt,
but I imagine coffee would be somewhat easy to get. Every fantasy world I've ever read has coffee because magic, and coffee is magic. So I'm good there. And maybe a pecan pie. Because pecan pie is that's life right there.
That's so good. One of my favorite breakfasts.
Mine
pie.
too. Oh, now I want it. See, this is what happens when you're a fat boy on a diet. Like you just food and I have said it before. I don't necessarily think you need trigger warnings. I think most of that's just nonsense. Like I don't think people are that sensitive. I want a food warning though. If you're going to write some really banging like food scenes, I need to be warned so I don't go into it like hungry because that would mess with my diet.
Yeah.
You did one on me, Melissa, where I read in book 3 with the food where they're having that little meal, and I ended up eating Oreos because it made me hungry for stuff. And it's all your fault. Like if you hadn't,
couldn't possibly be hungry for Oreos. I'm sure they don't have them in War Master.
But maybe if they did, like she would have been a little happier. That poor Livia.
Oh yeah. Well, imagine if the Forager's Belt produced Oreos and milkshakes or something.
Ooh, milkshakes.
I did write a scene, just as a little digression. I wrote a scene about tomatoes in the Dark Goddess series that my daughter actually wanted tomatoes, and she does not like tomatoes. Nice. She said it made her hungry for tomatoes, so there's a win for me.
I used to love aside from the Dairy Queen McFlurries, but not McFlurries McDonald's. What is it? Dairy Queen Blizzards. There we go. But I don't know if you guys have Sonics where you're at, but they have a banana split or banana sundae like not frosty milkshake deal. And I used to get that all the time, so I actually check the calories, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm drinking a Big Mac. And that was the end of that. So although if you're in a fantasy world, you don't have to worry about calories as much, right? Because you're so much more active.
Right.
All right. Because we are civilized human beings here at the Blasters of Blade podcast, we are no longer Knuckle Dragon Troglodytes. We're going to ask you coffee or tea. And how would you take it if it was the last time you got to have this before going off into the wild blue yonder of Frontierville? Bill.
Water. Well, actually, no. If this is the last time I'm going to get it, well, okay, hold on. I need to think about this now.
Coffee?
No, never coffee. Ever. A bottled root beer, not in a can, like an actual bottle.
Plastic
Specific
or glass?
brand?
Not a specific. Actually, no. Homebrewed.
Ooh.
Okay. So I'm guessing you
want
mean glass bottle then.
The home brew that my grandfather used to make, taught me how to make. That is what I would want.
I feel like
The
there's
rest of the case is coming with me. We're taking it with, and no one else is allowed to touch it. Touch my root beer, I'm throwing you out the airlock. I'm telling Houston it was an accident.
Yeah.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah,
Let's start up
Houston,
there with-
Jerry, I don't know what happened. He just started waving like a lunatic. He ran into the airlock and opened it. Like, yeah, never mind that he, his wallet was emptied out before he went in there, but it's just the weirdest thing.
So there's the famous incident that happened on the not the space station, on the Arctic station, where one guy was reading a book because they're out there for months at a time, and the other guy spelled his book, so he stabbed him. And everyone who's a reader was like, I'm not saying
I think it's valid.
I feel like your root beer, if that's the last comfort item you have that you brought with you, that would be right up there. Be like, okay, he kind of had it coming. So, all right, Jesse. It's the last time you get to have this beverage. What are you going to do before the frontier?
So I feel like wine would be pretty easy. I make my own wines, and I could continue to do that out on the frontier. So my answer would be a glass bottle Coca-Cola, the cane sugar ones, not the American recipe, like the like ones we import from Mexico. That would be that'd be my pick. But if we want to stick to the coffee or tea or whatever, then my standard answer is hot chocolate, and I would probably crush up Oreo pieces and do a little bit of chocolate syrup in the hot chocolate.
Okay. Melissa.
Well, mine is always Coca-Cola, nice ice cold Coca-Cola, and that memory would have to last me for a long time. And as we are leaving the land of sugar Coca-Cola, it's gonna have to last me a really long time.
Yeah, I thought as a Utonian,
unless I'm willing to get the.
I just figured as a Utonian, you might do like the dirty cola that everyone has been reporting them for as a state.
I do like that too. Yeah, dirty Dr. Pepper. I like that.
But it has to be Dr. Pepper. It doesn't work with any carbonated beverage.
They do them with other carbonated beverages, but I like the dirty Dr. Pepper, possibly because it's the first one I had. And I do, and the other thing is that I like Dr. Pepper, but it's too sweet for me now, which is why I drink Coca-Cola instead. And it's just the Coca-Cola by itself, maybe with a little lemon. That's my drink of choice.
All right. So if you had to do, I'm assuming you're not lactose intolerant. If you had to do it, are you doing a root beer float, a Dr. Pepper float, or a brown cow, which is, if you don't know, a Coke float?
Probably root beer float, actually. I have fond memories of those. So
All right.
that's something. Mhm.
All right. Keith.
Okay, I'm not going to be able to get this again, so I'm getting Cafe du Monde chicory coffee.
Oh,
Ugh.
Why
I'm going to
chicory?
make that. Oh, it's
That's-
delicious. It's really, it's every bit of that bitter coffee you ever wanted all at once. And I'm going to flavor it with coffee makes a creamer with Abuelita's hot chocolate. And I'm going to add Aztec chocolate bitters to it to really go lean into that spicy mocha chicory coffee.
I don't know. I've had chicory and I didn't like it. I know it was the South used it as a substitute for coffee during the Great War. I
'cause
also know,
chicory grows down there.
yeah, I know you can get it still in New Orleans, and that they'll do half and half mixes as well.
Yeah.
Um,
If you go to Cafe du Monde in New Orleans, that's what they're actually serving is that chicory.
oh, that's a very specific place. I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Cafe Du
Yeah.
Monde is amazing. It's where beignets were, if
Yeah,
not
you gotta have a
created,
beignet
it was
with it.
definitely
You get
popularized.
3 beignets that are just
Mhm.
French donuts covered in powdered sugar, and the Cafe
Pile,
du
pile
Monde
of
is,
powdered sugar this
Yeah,
big.
it's really
and they
thick.
do cafe au lait, which is just coffee and creamer,
Mhm.
and you just dip the donut in the beignet in the coffee, and oh my god, is that good?
I'm glad you told me what a beignet was because I was about to ask. So.
Oh,
Beignets are fantastic, and the cafe is so popular that when you go and you visit there, people of all walks
There's
of
a
life show up, and there's always a line. And I remember
Yeah.
going there and seeing a couple that they were obviously either on a date or it was theater night or something like that, because they were dressed to the nines. The man is in a beautiful suit and the woman is wearing a velvet dress and is trying to figure out how to eat this giant pile of powdered sugar and not get it on this dress that probably costs more than I make in a year.
Uh-huh.
It was amazing, but you see such a mesh of people because everybody goes to the cafe, they serve beignets and they serve a bunch of drinks, and that's it. It's what they're famous
Mhm.
for, and it is amazing food. It is
yeah.
absolutely
and
worth
it's
every
it's
second that you wait.
outdoor, so you can watch people walking by being jealous of you because you got a table.
Yep.
Yep.
There you go.
Mhm.
What about you,
While you're
Julie?
Yeah.
I am always drinking Diet Dr. Pepper with coconut and lime if I can get my hands on it, and if it was the last time, I would definitely get my hands on it with lots of ice cubes, and then I'm smuggling it with me and where I'm going anyway.
Mm.
Oh, I'm going to give my answer because I'm the most basic white girl around. And if it's the last time I can have this, I'm going all out with a pumpkin spice latte because I absolutely love those. Unfortunately, I generally only set myself have them like at the beginning of the October and the end of October because calories are a thing and I'm trying to get the weight off. But man, I love those when made right, the pumpkin spice latte. So if it's the last time I'm getting it, like that's a comfort food in a cup right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've talked about it before, Keith. Keith in the side chat's like, I did not see that coming. But
JR is such basic white girl.
I mean, it's Han Solo
It is.
season, right? Like, I need to get the UGG boots and the rest of the basic white girl outfit so I can drink my pumpkin spice.
The little clutch purse.
Yeah, and a little. I guess I need a like purse dog if I'm going to go all
You
out.
do. You need
Yes.
a little chihuahua in a purse.
Because Ranger
So-
would never fit.
No, he would not. Yeah, that's one of those things you just. Although my other favorite drink they don't make anymore. So when I worked at Starbucks when I was at grad school at Nova, they had a drink, and I don't even remember what they called it anymore. But it basically tasted like a maple syrup smothered pancake in a coffee. I think it was the maple latte, if I'm memory serves. It had so many calories that the American Heart Association asked Starbucks to stop making it.
Wow.
Dear God, that's
But it was
Hey.
so good. It was like if you had sugar highs, like you would just pass out after a sip because it was that much. But it was good. And when you were a college student who was doing all-nighters at grad school for your papers, I mean, it was just the best thing ever. It's what the doctor ordered.
I have an old-fashioned recipe that goes kind of that direction. So
Yeah.
just
So,
use
all right.
maple syrup as your sweetener.
Yeah.
It's a better
All right.
old fashioned.
It is. Agave and tequila makes a really interesting old-fashioned variant too.
So, all right, well, we're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly shill for the woman, and then we're going to dive in more targeted than just talking about the food we miss. We kind of mix the frontier and the foodcast foodcast together, but we do that with everything, I think. So that might just need to be our secondary line, the Blasters and Blades podcast, the foodcast, all in one, something. I don't know. We'll workshop it, people. And with that,
introducing The Shaman's Bones, Migratory Farmers Book 1 by Hunter K. Wallace. This fantasy features fierce animal gods, omens of the stars, and a quest to find a very special set of bones. When Yolanda is made an ambassador in her caravan of migratory farmers, it's a dream come true, until a trade in a village on the equator goes terribly wrong. The skies foretell trouble, the spirit animals are angry, and shadow monsters prowl the night. Worst of all, Yolanda is supposed to fix everything. To do so, she'll need the bones to summon the greatest spirit animal of all. Yolanda isn't alone. She's the help of a resentful young man whose life she has ruined, a gorgeous bone collector obsessed with corpses, a nanny-turned-sleuth, and a very attractive blasphemer who hates the spirits even more than she does. She'd rather be alone, or stealing glances at the broad-shouldered, brown-eyed blasphemer. No, she'd rather be alone. Maybe. Learn more about The Shaman's Bones and other works by Hunter K. Wallace at hunterkwallace.com.
all right, thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. And now we are back to talk about the topic we already started talking about, and that is the frontiers of speculative fiction. So with that out of the way, normally we define our terms, but I think frontier is kind of a basic term. Do we need to define what a frontier is?
I mean, Bill already had questions about
idea.
it, so.
All right. So what is a...
Yeah,
Go
roadside picnic zones are treated as the new sort of technological frontier. You also have Tron, which treats the grid as a digital frontier. Biodigital.
Yeah, I'm writing
jazz,
cyberpunk,
man.
so anything can be a frontier.
Okay, so maybe we do need to define our terms then. I thought this one was kind of basic, but I guess what do I know?
Well, but it's true, because when we talk about frontier, it's just unexplored area, those edges between what we know and what we don't know. Because on Earth, you look at it and say one of the biggest frontiers is the ocean. There's so much there that we have not even begun to scratch the surface of, because it's really, really dangerous for us to go down there, and we have a tendency to go boom. And that is something that keeps us out of a lot of frontiers, is the technology, magic, or whatever that allows us to enter those places.
So I did a quick Google, and a frontier is defined as generally the edge or boundary of what is known, settled, or explored.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that work for you?
It does.
Yep.
Okay. So with that out of the way, why do you think stories set on the edges of frontier space, the edge of empires, as it were, if you're going fantasy, why do you think those kind of stories resonate to the point where we still see them year after year as central themes?
Okay, so one of the things I think is important to remember is that we're often, because we're all Americans, I think, unless somebody here is Canadian. But as Americans, the frontier is in our history and in our blood. And I think a lot of the fiction that is written about frontiers is written to that sort of desire, that sort of history. I think we had Star Trek, which was Wagon Train to the Stars. And, Gene Roddenberry pitching that as a frontier story during a time when Westerns were a really big thing, and the Westerns were about frontiers. So in popular fiction, we could probably go further back than that, but at least that far, that's what people were caring about. You misspelled frontier, just saying.
Yeah.
It's what happens when I have to type it really, really fast, because
fumble fingers.
To get a banner up in the time that it takes for us to move to the next topic. It's like, type fast.
Yeah.
And then I type.
So anyway, I think that's the beginning of it, is that at least for American readers, the frontier is something that we instinctively respond to because we always have responded to it.
Well, I'll take it one beyond that. For any Western audience, for any first world audience, the frontier for the vast majority of us has not existed in generally at least our grandparents' lifetimes. But it is something that beyond that point existed throughout all of human history almost. It is only now that we've reached a point where there's only like a few places on the planet that have not been explored. So your ADHD kids, your rough men, your tough ladies, they always gravitated out into these spaces and filled them and drove what the frontier was. And for now, maybe for most people on the planet, for the first time in history, that frontier is questionable until we get better space travel, or we start diving into the ocean. So I think it appeals to something that's missing in the modern history that used to exist for a lot, most of history.
So you're missing, like, that's true, but I also think you're missing the role, excuse me, that frontiers sort of provide. Like, if you look at American history, the people that came here were coming here because they didn't quite fit in and they were escaping. And that is historically the role of the frontier. It's the escape valve for malcontents to keep, societal norms moving, to keep the peace. And it's no accident that turmoil has increased as we've lost frontiers to escape to, for those rugged individuals who just don't want to do their own thing. They want to do their own thing, right? Take my ball and go. That's one thing Elon Musk has talked about is, the space travel is giving that escape valve back to society.
Yeah, and it's always been that place where both people who just didn't handle the structure of society well could gravitate to, and people who intentionally just did not want to be restricted by society would gravitate to. The rules were different. And from a writer perspective, if I set something in a frontier, the rules are a lot cleaner for those characters.
Yeah,
Han Solo and the Cantina and Mos Eisley was not unexpected.
No.
Yeah.
But we also have the aspect of there's still a lot of things that are not settled. They may have been explored as that they've been kind of mapped out, but that is also different than settling the frontier. Because I think about my brother and sister-in-law, and they live on 35 acres in absolutely no back of nowhere, Arizona, where it is a good solid 2-hour trip to get to the nearest grocery store. So it is a once a month trip, and you haul everything back to the ranch. They have to haul water out to the ranch. They have gigantic water storage things that have been pushed into the ground. They use solar power, and if the batteries get screwed up, your chickens die, which happened at least once. And so there is still a lot of settling these frontiers because we know all that land is there, but there's a lot of places on Earth that are still very inhospitable, and we're still figuring out how to venture there. And that is an interesting story. She sends me ranch reports. I get ranch reports once a week of the crazy things that are happening on their ranch in Arizona that I read, and part of me goes, oh yeah, that would be so cool. And I love listening to it. And also part of me goes, I do not want a giant rattlesnake in my house. So I'm perfectly fine. And this is a part of why we love these stories too, is that we're living them vicariously from the comfort of my air-conditioned house with my soda and all of the things that they still don't have AC down there because they paid for a new baby horse to be born instead. And so I can experience it for my creature comforts.
Yeah.
And I keep in mind, it was, as a kid, air conditioning wasn't necessarily a norm in houses. Central air was kind of a new thing in the 70s.
Yeah, that's true.
And I grew up in rural Iowa, and it was like, it was not uncommon. Farmers usually brought a shotgun or a pistol with them because they didn't know when they were going to run into some animal.
Yep.
Yeah. And maybe, like Janice says, we're still settling the frontiers that we know about. And maybe reading about frontiers is a stand-in for the frontiers we experience, because I think of, say, my father who joined a new religion that was not the one his dad was a pastor of, and he was breaking ground. And I think that, again, it's a safe way to explore the new things that we're all doing, that maybe aren't as interesting to outsiders, or maybe aren't, maybe they're only interesting to us. But but frontiers are. You've died from dysentery. Yeah, that's a good one.
My wife is named
so,
Terry, and she loves that line.
Oh.
But
Oh,
that's a nice
good.
thing to be able to play the game and read the thing and not actually get dysentery.
Uh-huh.
Because a lot of these things
Yeah.
I want to experience in a way
No.
that doesn't mean getting dysentery or other such things.
Or
Not actually
cholera,
dying.
Yeah,
I don't
not
wanna die
actually
from
dying.
dysentery.
It's more fun to imagine the good stuff and not have to think about the bad stuff. But I think we have frontiers because it gives us that opportunity to see what else is different.
In fiction or gaming, you can
Yeah.
explore or at least mentally kind of see what that would be like without, I'm going to die in 3 days if I don't get water that's clean,
Right.
and I'll die in a week if I get bad water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff. One of my favorite comfort reads is called Promised Land. It's by Connie Willis and Cynthia Felice, and it's a Western science fiction romance. And it's about half the book is the main character trying to learn how to live in a very rough frontier environment when she has been all her life been raised to technology and science and ease and comfort. And in that world, when she's off at school, she deliberately chose to take agriculture and farming and other classes like that just to spite her mother, really, and ends up having to use them. And so I read it and I think, wow, that's really cool that she could do this. And I'm really glad I don't have to, because I don't want to have to harvest the garden. I don't want to have to, retile my bathroom with broken pieces of ceramic because I can't afford whole tiles. But it's fun. It's fun to imagine. I think the frontier gives us the quickest and easiest way to imagine something different.
Well, you talking about genre. We romanticized the Western frontier, going back to what you talked about earlier, especially with it was American culture, but our movies, everything spread. People talk about if you name name the best Western of all time. This may not be your answer, but it's a lot of people's answers. It's The Searchers, and it's John Wayne. And The Searchers is the romanticized, toned down story of the Parkers. But if you learn the Parkers' real life story, none of them got a happy ending. None of them, they all either died horribly, were put through terrible things, or I don't know, I guess you could call Quanah's story a happy ending because he died as the only ever chief of the Comanche. But his people were subjugated, so nobody won. Nobody, most of the families wiped out. They all go through terrible tortures and things like that, and it's none of it's happy.
So what I'm hearing is they lived a life almost like one of us had written it for them.
Yeah, at times, and that's what makes it a great story. But we take those stories and we took our outlaws from that period. We took our my namesake, Billy the Kid, Jesse James. We romanticized all of that, and when it all died, we look at it the way I imagine some people from Japan might look at the fall of the samurai. We look at it as a defining end to something that was American in its own way. And I think that romanticization, I can't talk tonight. Yeah. Whatever it is, I think it's spread. I think that it has spread far and wide, along with the other media that carried it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Go ahead. Oh, I was just thinking about spaghetti westerns and Italy and the popularity of Clint Eastwood, who I guess just had a birthday, and so I was reading about him and his career, and that was something that the Europeans thought was really interesting, was American Western culture, specifically the romanticized Westerns that we produced. So.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of those angles still exist in the American West. We have our cowboys and we have our rodeos and all of those kinds of things. And it's why cowboy romances is a ginormous subgenre. And you would think that we've told all the stories that we can tell about cowboys, and yet we don't. And then you see things like Firefly, and we're still telling cowboy stories.
Star Wars, Star Wars: A New Hope is a Western. It really is.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you want to get into the Star Wars setting, they constantly refer to the Outer Rim, which is kind of a Wild West area that the Empire and the Rebellion and the Alliance and all the rest of the governments may claim a chunk of the galaxy, but they don't really rule out there.
Yeah.
Well, The Mandalorian is 100% a space western. Not for 90% of its runtime.
And if you haven't seen it, go see Mandalorian and Grogu. It's a great movie.
Cool.
Okay, so no, you're fine. Do you think the frontiers work outside of the American West kind of tradition of what we as U.S. Listeners, viewers, people with that shared cultural experience? Do you think that they work as well? You know, a frontier, a la Roman fort for the Med, or right at the edge of where your castle can see in the woods is kind of a frontier if you're a frontier fort along Adrian's Wall. Like, do you think they still resonate as well outside of the cowboy context?
From the media I'm seeing, from anime out of Japan, from Europe, when they're talking about fantasy, when you're dealing with fantasy stories, that worldwide, that people are still seeking those frontiers. They're still looking for that place out at the edge of what we know.
Yeah, I see it in a lot of Chinese dramas because I've been sucked into those, and it's tremendously fun to be sucked into them, where they're looking for because we've always looked for expansions. You think about the history of colonialism and things like that, where people are going out somewhere and encountering whatever they encounter there, and then either seeking to negotiate with it or take it over. And we see that in all sorts of cultures, where it is we start from our place and then we expand outward just to see what else there is. And like you say, and to get away from the other people, because sometimes we've had enough of the other people, or we see a lot of expansion based on things like religion and stuff like that, where it is, the people don't like me practicing what I'm doing here, so I will go elsewhere. And that's, I think, pretty universal across a lot of different cultures too.
Yeah.
Well, and what big part of a frontier, like why does the frontier make such a great setting? And I'm not trying to talk about this from a writer's perspective, but as a reader, like, you should know the things you like and what you're looking for and the kind of stories that you like. Frontiers provide almost a maximum of external conflict. Frontiers have unknown diseases, they have unknown animals, they have other outlaws and bandits and alien species, or whatever genre you enjoy. Frontiers maximize external conflict, and a ton of readers outside of very specific genres like romance or things like that, the external conflict is the thriving driver. That's what people crave, is some kind of this. I write violence for a reason. People love seeing that external conflict, and this is the place where there's no law and order established to hold those things back. And that's almost universal for, I don't care where in the world you come from. Russians love those stories as much as Americans do. Everyone has some kind of part history of their culture, their country that was, had a warrior tradition or had something. It's a natural human thing to enjoy that kind of conflict.
Well, you see these stories that are now based on Mars, whether it's what was the Andy Ware one, where
The Martian,
The Martian,
or Total Recall, or Heinlein's had people living on Mars, and Mars is just the new Old West. and it works really well as an analogy for it. But it's like it's a place I'm going with my cyberpunk stories where they're going to be an outpost on Mars,
Mhm.
and they have
Yeah.
to deal with all that stuff along with threats from behind and from the new stuff they've got to deal with and figure out while they're there.
Yeah, and Mars is a really good stand-in for everybody's frontier. You know,
It really
I mean,
is because we don't really know everything about it.
right? Yeah, and nobody has settled there, so you know you can dream about it. Doesn't matter what nationality you are.
Yeah.
And then for fantasy, the Lord of the Rings, the ultimate fantasy, is a frontier story because you have these hobbits leaving what they know for the world beyond, and even the men are, the humans are breaking ground and pushing their territory. And so there are all these frontiers. So you can either look at it as it's literally frontier, or it's the hobbits going places that they didn't know anything about, and it's a frontier for them. So
Mhm.
all of those things that we're talking about, the encounters they have, the animals, the monsters they don't know anything about, that's all frontier.
And in Lord of the Rings, that whole story, the only character who is actually comfortable in all that is Aragorn, who spent years as a ranger.
Yeah.
Everybody else is like, this is all new to me.
Yeah. This is all strange. Yeah.
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 Different
Totally.
and strange. Well,
Yeah.
and then there's also the discovery aspect. One of the nice things about The Martian is that it's looking into, well, how would we be able to live there? So we look at a lot of places where we can't exist, and those
Yep.
frontiers become that scientific curiosity and challenge of to find new life and to boldly go where no man has gone before and see what would it take to survive under the deepest oceans, or to
Yeah.
go well beyond the Kepler belt, to go to any of these places. And so there's a scientific drive there too, to go, what don't we know? Because we are, by nature, human beings tend to be phenomenally curious. And I think that's one of the other drives of the frontier, is that what is just beyond that ridge over there, and why is there a big sign that says don't go this way? Of course I'm going to go this way because there's a big sign that says don't go this way.
Well, the first thing is you told me I shouldn't go there, and I'm definitely
Right.
going there now.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the don't step in the fairy ring, but why? And we do
Oh,
get a
I'm
lot
just
of
gonna
that
step in
as
it.
people. Yeah.
Mhm.
If it's there, we're going to keep marching into it.
Mhm.
So do you think it
Yeah.
makes any difference whether there is things like, extra magic and technology? Does that change the way that we explore frontiers?
Well, maybe
I mean,
makes us a
literally.
little. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, makes us a
Yeah.
little more adventurous, I think. If you're used to comforts and you're going into the frontier and you can take some of those comforts with you, it has to change your perspective, as opposed to pioneers setting out to cross the American West.
If I can bring
Yeah.
tech that this
Yeah.
by the same token, if I can bring tech that solves at least some of the problems I do know about going forward, like,
Yeah.
hey, I can have a food replicator, I can bring something that will produce food I can actually eat
Mhm.
on this new planet.
Mhm.
Hey, that goes a long way. Or the fantasy version, I've got a wizard or a priest or a druid or whatever
Mhm.
who can cast a spell and provide what we need, or heal us when we get hurt, or
Mhm.
allow us to breathe air under this liquid substance we're now finding ourselves in.
Mhm.
Yeah, that would make the people bolder, make them more willing to go forward and explore.
You're missing the other part of that is if you have magic, generally you have more monster creatures.
Yeah,
The upside is matched by the downside of what you have to face in that frontier. I mean, the Roman Legion, if you go with their frontier forts, because that's on the thumbnail, I mean, what did they have? They had the Goths and the Visigoths. They didn't have two-headed hydras that were trying to eat them for breakfast, or
something that could literally breathe fire, or an
Yeah.
alien species they don't understand at all. But you can solve at least the basic survival problems. Now, how do we deal with the monster, the threat, the alien species? We've at least got a baseline to work from.
Yeah.
Thoughts, Bill? You've been a little bit quiet.
I mean, the flow of the conversation is flowing, so Honestly, I'm still sort of hung up on the question, why does the frontier attract us so much? And on the one hand, there is that strong element of people who are outcasts wanting to go different places, or people just wanting to see what's there. But I think the root of it is that latter one, people wanting to see what's there, because that's at the center of other things as well. That's at the center of mathematics, of astrophysics, of basically anything you can think of, even philosophy and psychology. This quest to sort of better understand humanity and what drives us as a whole. Frontier stories are really just they're pretty much just symbolic of that drive for humanity to know the unknown. Why? One thing that I can think of off the top of my head that made a big rumble in the science community was the movie Interstellar when that came out. We know theoretically that black holes exist. We know theoretically that the gravity of a black hole is going to bend light. Well, it wasn't until Christopher Nolan and his team started putting those equations into a simulation which, by the way, for anyone who didn't know this, it took hours to render a single frame of that black hole. It took a while. But the output from them doing that added or built upon, I don't think that's the right way to say that. It basically gave us a look at this one element of space, as Star Trek puts it, our final frontier, because now we can visualize this is what it looks like. Beyond just, blurry photos from the Hubble telescope.
Yeah.
And then, of course, from there you get into what Keith was talking about, which is what kind of a frontier are we looking at? Because, science labs, mathematicians like John Nash, staring at a window drawing equations. It's not exactly the most compelling thing, but now you do something like the aforementioned roadside picnic, where now we have characters going into this dangerous place for the sake of discovery, or for the sake of making a quick buck. But even then, the economy is being driven by that discovery, by exploring the frontier, seeing what dangers are there, what metaphorical gold is there.
Okay.
I feel like I may have rambled a little bit, but
No.
All right, Jesse, you've also been a little bit on the less verbal side today.
I have.
I didn't think so.
he's more talkative than me.
Yeah.
I don't know. My next kind of thing for me is that we really hammered westerns, and you had asked about like different cultures and things like that. But I think frontiers transcend genre very well. We see frontiers all throughout most fantasy. Instantly, one of the ones that pops into my mind is Beyond the Black River, Conan. We take a man who was born in one frontier, who's Sumerian and comes from these warring tribes in this place that the civilization Aquilonia cannot pierce into without getting in huge battles and this wandering barbarian tribes, and we inject him into the Picts, and the Picts have this huge jungle, and once you cross this river, you're in their world, and they're the frontier, and it's one of my favorite Conan stories. And so I feel like you can put frontiers into almost anything. They go into romance. We addressed that one of the original high fantasies is, in fact, a frontier story. You can work it however you want to work it. And that helps too. That helps it work in other cultures.
Yeah.
So horror and frontiers kind of work in the same way. You can stick them anywhere and they fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you go in for horror, you go into an unexplored, unknown area, and now the monster's hunting you, and you have to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
Call of Cthulhu, where
Yeah.
everyone's having weird horror,
cults
psychological dreams of Cthulhu, and then at the end of the story, we follow the crew of this ship as they go onto the frontier of exploring the underwater city that's risen up from the depths.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Only to everyone die and go mad. 'cause
Everyone
it's-
goes
Or
crazy.
the story Meg.
Spoilers.
The
Jeez.
story. Go ahead.
I was joking about spoilers for a movie that old.
I'm not
Fair.
home. I don't have the spoiler alert.
If you haven't read the book Meg, all about the what is it, the Marianas Trench.
Yeah,
So deep,
yeah.
we really don't have a lot of information about it.
Yeah.
And what could be down there, unless you watch Pacific Rim, in which case, hey, spoiler,
Yeah.
the monsters come out of the Marianas
Giant
Trench.
monsters.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, there's
No, I
nothing
can't
wrong
watch
with
that
giant
movie.
monsters versus giant robots.
Okay.
Well, I mean, technically, in Pacific Rim, they were coming from another dimension.
But
But
the Marianas
West
Trench
and-
is connected to another dimension, and we
Which
don't know
doesn't
that
make
yet.
Which doesn't make that better.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it
That's
better,
true.
no.
Does
or unless it's
Well-
a frontier.
So frontiers, aside from the escape valve and the danger they propose to a storyline, they also are growth opportunities. And I'm thinking you mentioned the ocean is the final frontier on Earth. And there have been species that we have thought long dead, and then suddenly every couple of years, one in Vermont and out on the New England area, they'll wash up on shore.
Yeah.
And science are like, wait, no, that died 100,000 years ago. There hasn't. Like, what are you talking about? One of them,
But no.
but they're just appearing. And so
Or
like
somebody pulls something out of a river in the middle of no place
Right.
that nobody thought still existed.
right, and so like they prevent the same reason. I think if you want to look at it that way, the Bermuda Triangle was a frontier of sorts. It's a place to challenge yourself and your capabilities against forces beyond your control, being that of nature or magic or whatever.
Right.
Do you think it serves different roles in a story if it's a sci-fi frontier versus a fantasy frontier, or do you think it doesn't matter?
I think it probably does. I think, I mean, it in the sense they're all the same, but science fiction, on the face of it, they have different challenges. It's maybe not monsters, okay, alien, yeah, but I think that readers and viewers going to each one are looking for something different. I don't know that it's because the frontier is different.
It's the flavor of how they're challenging that frontier. And the drivers, because Bill hit on a really good one there that we really hadn't talked too much about, and that's the financial driver for going into the frontier, because there's gold in them there hills. I mean, how much of the time is it? There's a mining opportunity. You talk about a lot of the push to go to Mars is also to get to the asteroid belt, because there are minerals that we need here, that we need for the technology and stuff that we want to keep developing, that we're either running out of or are very hard to find here. And they're like, we landed on one asteroid, took one huge scoop and went, there is enough of these rare earth minerals per se to power all sorts of things if only we can get them from the asteroid back home. There's a whole lot, and that's corporations going into space or going into a frontier. That's why the trains came out. So there's also a huge amount of story in going out into the frontier, because you want to make money as much as sell it.
I was thinking of the drive to find the Northwest Passage. you know, because there were a lot of people who were just, hey, let's see what's over the other hill. But the idea that you could get a waterway that went all the way across the North American continent was huge. And there were a lot of people who invested a lot of money in trying to make that happen.
There's a reason we went into a jungle in Panama and built the canal down there, because it made it easier to move products. But going in there and building the canal, that was a frontier in and of itself.
Yeah.
But a neat one to think about is, what are the people who gravitate to going to do that?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think it self-selects the same kind of rugged individualist that goes, you know, anywhere. Every time you look at history, it's that person that's, you know, willing to do it on their own and trust their mettle against all of the forces that be. That stoic man and that woman who's, you know, just strangely, assuming you're using the gender roles of like a fantasy Western setting, but that, you know, can keep it all together despite the house being under attack, and somehow she doesn't burn dinner, and, you know, keeps everyone relaxed. And I'm not saying that like in a derogatory sense, but like when you get nervous, when you get anxious, your fast motor twitch skills go down. Your ability to respond to stimuli goes down. They've done testing on it where they've had like where you know the puzzles you do as a kid, you got to put the round hole through the round whatever, like all those. They've done that with people under extreme stress, and they can't do those puzzles that our kids do as infants because of the loss of, you know, biological capabilities in the act of being afraid. And so when I think like the frontier woman, that's the woman who's like, yeah, I mean, I know we're under siege and the Indians are attacking, but hey, this banging stew right here, and I didn't burn it. Or the guy that just makes, you know what I mean? Like it's that stereotype. It existed for a reason.
Yeah.
And while she's doing that, she's handing the next loaded rifle or shotgun back to whoever.
Because she loaded it with her feet while she was cooking it.
I don't know. It was like, I'm between stirs. Go ahead.
Or using it herself, because I had a grandmother who held off Native Americans because they wanted her ducks, and she had shot them for fair and square, and she'd shoot them too because they were her ducks. But it does mean that a lot of these stories are, you know, the rugged individuals that go out, but then there's the community that is all part of supporting this. So you get the frontier towns, that space station you were talking about in the beginning. What does that look like when it is something that's brand new on the edge of whatever? And that ends up with shows like Babylon 5, Deep Space Nine, things like that, where you get these communities that are out on the edge of things in order to make it so you can pass trade back and forth, where you have someplace to come back to sell your gold or whatever. And so we get a lot of interesting stories between the individuals, the communities, and that question of what's out there.
Yeah, and I think that is the difference, that you have the person who goes out and clears the frontier, and then you have the person who goes and builds something new on the frontier and is willing to settle it. I mean, those are very different stories.
They're different personalities and skills.
Yes, they're different personalities. It's a different kind of person who does each of those things, and they're both pioneers.
And then you get the ones who go after everything's settled and then puts the front up like they were there the whole time.
Yeah, my ancestors waited for the train, I'm afraid. It's not exactly true, because they were supplying pioneer caravans that went west, and then when the train came through, they were done, and that's when they came west. So, but I like that story.
The things you need in order to have those. The mail order bride thing, again, is a very popular trope, and I've seen it in science fiction. I've seen it in a couple of different things, that idea that once you're out there, you can't stay there for very long unless you bring out family. So somewhere you've got to start creating families and creating, you know, people who are going to be part of your that new frontier community.
And you kind of wonder how many people were ADHD or somewhere neurospicy on the spectrum and were just like, I cannot deal with the guy in charge here anymore. I'm packing a bag and going. Any direction will work. I'm out.
Yeah.
In historic sense, in a fantasy sense, it was also a chance to start over. Like, you messed up, you robbed that bank, you got caught, you break out of jail. Well, you know, if I just go into the woods, I get a chance to start over, and I'm not Bob Smith anymore who committed that crime. I'm Bob Jones, and this is just, you know, me starting over. Now in sci-fi, it's a little harder to do because with the biometrics and the facial recognition and all of that. Like just like with modernity now, there is no second chance. Like you're forever marked. But in a world absent that godlike technology, it also is a second chance in addition to everything else for people that really mess their lives up that now want to try to fix it.
Yeah, and a lot of the old westerns, if you read those, they were like after a certain point in history, it's like, yeah, we didn't ask if we might know you were a veteran of the Civil War. We didn't ask which side you were on.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Because there's a wrong answer to that question, depending.
Yeah,
Depending on where you are. Yeah.
He showed up in our fort town, and they've been a dependable human being since they've been here. We aren't going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the other thing is there were certain part of those social mores of the frontier where there were certain things you just didn't ask.
Yeah.
If he says his name was Bob Smith and someone comes looking for John and it's him, no, he's Bob. He's always been Bob. What are you talking about?
Okay.
So,
when I joined the Army in the late 80s, when I went active duty, it was still kind of a social thing in the Army to just don't ask somebody why they joined.
Really?
Well, I mean, I was at the tail end where people got the go to war, go to jail opportunity from a judge.
I'm sure that still happens.
Yeah, just not officially, but like that second chance, that starting over, or if your side, for instance, if we use the American West, your side lost the war, the Browncoats, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is my chance to pick up the pieces and go somewhere else and try to make a go of life under this new insert whatever. So
yeah,
I feel like there's more to say about Frontiers. I think our next Frontier episode will split sci-fi and fantasy into two separate panels because I do think they have different challenges.
There are different flavors.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same concept. The themes are there, but I do think it's enough that we'll come back to Frontiers and sci-fi and Frontiers and fantasy. But we are at an hour and 16 minutes, and I'm getting the look from Jana as she's sharpening those stabbing needles that she says she's making a blanket.
Just
but
one.
I'm just saying.
I'm making a blankie, see?
Yeah, that could be your cover because that looks a little sharp. I'm just saying.
Hey.
So
Very important skills in the frontier to be able to keep people warm in blankies.
I went to a Renaissance fair where they were going over some of that, and watching them make the yarn to make the blankets was enough of the thing.
That's very cool.
And they had like 9 different machines they were using just to show you the opportunities,
the variety.
The variety you have. The pedal one seemed to be the easiest, by the way.
Yeah. If you want to do like fantasy or something like that for Frontier, go take some wilderness survival training. The basic stuff, time you spend just to feed yourself and stay alive, is kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like that's why I think from here for the next part of this discussion we'll do a separate panel and split the two up. Because you do have those same skill set requirements in sci-fi, but it's guessing because I don't know what this planet is. No human's ever been here before.
Yeah.
But the deer didn't seem to die. Oh, okay. They're allergic or they're not allergic and we are, right? Like there's room to go in there with the xenobiology. But any closing thoughts, Bill?
None that I can think of other than on the sci-fi front, I have genuine questions. Which replicator is better? The ones we get in Star Trek? Or the one that was only ever mentioned once in the 60s on the TARDIS?
You're missing the Stargate replicators as well. But Jesse, closing thoughts.
Frontiers are cool. This was fun.
Drink your Ovaltine.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Melissa?
Oh, just that it's been interesting to talk about and think about that. I have loved Frontier stories for a lot longer than I realized. I was just thinking about the book My Side of the Mountain, where the kid goes from his pampered life to survive in the wilderness for a year and how all the stuff he does. And it was just amazing. I loved it. And just that's, I think, what draws me at least is the idea of seeing someone do things that I probably couldn't do unless I really had to, and could I if I really had to.
Human beings in the will to live is strong. I think people would be surprised when push comes to shove how much they can endure and how tough they can be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But all right, closing thoughts, Keith.
Really enjoyed this. There's a lot to think about with Frontiers, whether it's from your characters, how do I keep going, how do I survive the next thing perspective, to how much fun is it to just read somebody trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
So Frontiers are an exciting thing and a lot of fun in fiction.
Mm-hmm.
In
Last,
real life.
but certainly not least, Miss Jana.
I still vote for the Frontier, where I get my Diet Dr. Pepper.
Cheers. I want my bourbon.
Good to know. All
I
right,
can do that on a Frontier.
Yeah.
Bill, how can we find you on the Wild interwebs as we bring this puppy to a close?
You can find me on Substack and X at Wilder396. That is Wilder spelled with a Y. And like I said before, I write Zorn, and while that isn't a Frontier adventure series, there are occasions when Zorn ends up stumbling upon something that's just some hella whack weird crap. And so there's sometimes having to figure out what is in the deep dark depths space.
All I know is nobody can hear you cry.
No.
Jesse.
OutlawAuthor.com is going to have a socials page. From that socials page, you can find my Substack, my X, my Instagram, all the cool places that I put up cool things. And you can track me down on any of those. As I always tell people, feel free to add me on Facebook, but Facebook is a personal page. You're going to get the unfiltered version of me if you are not ready for that. If you cannot stand the heat, don't enter the kitchen in the first place.
But they do have hot chocolate in his kitchen, so you've been warned.
This is
Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
Where might we
Well,
stop you?
you can find me at melissamcshane.com, which has a link to my newsletter, which is published monthly and gives you interesting stories about my life in India and information about new releases and sales. You can find my storefront at nightharborpress.com, where I sell ebooks, audiobooks, and signed paperbacks. And as I get closer to returning to the United States, my other social media presences will improve, because that becomes easier once I'm no longer 12 hours offset by the rest of the world. And you can always check me out on Amazon.com, my author page, sign up to follow me. And they're very good about sending out information about new releases.
Outstanding. So, Jana, when Melissa moves back to the States, do you get your basement back?
Yes.
Yes. We'll have to figure out exactly how that works, but yes.
I just have to get my son down to move all the books for me.
Or hear me out. The listeners can look at your catalog and buy the things so you can get the resupply.
Yes. Buy
to the
all
new
the
location.
things. Buy all the things.
books.
We'd be
Then there's
happy
fewer
to.
stuff for me to move.
Mhm.
There you go. Keith, where might we find you on the wild interwebs?
While I'm still getting around to getting the Defiant House website up, you can find me at keithhedger.com. Pretty easy to find. I'm all over the social media. And again, if you're not ready for real, maybe pass me up.
All right, last but certainly not least, Lady of the Blanket Hands, Miss Jana S. Brown.
Blanket hands. Yeah, try that one again. Goodness. All right, I'm Janice Brown. I can be found at Linktree, linktr.ee/Opal Kingdom Press, or you can search for the pen names Jana S. Brown or Jenna Ray. If it has to do with publishing, it's almost always me. I'm out on all the things. I am the lizard internet hide and go seek.
One of these days, we'll have to teach you to hide a little bit better.
Yeah. Like I say, I go, my poor son, who is very, very security minded, kind of shakes his head in desperation over the fact that I do not hide well, but that's because in order to be an author, you got to be found.
This is fair. All right, this is the part, dear listener, where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books, so to your part, it really does make a difference. And in addition to leaving reviews, since we talked about what we liked and what we didn't like, if there are books that you just really love or genres that you just really love, tell a friend about that too. You start a discussion, start a book club, start a fan club, whatever. Just get involved in the community you love. And with that, you can find us on our Linktree at linktr.ee, Linktree /Blasters and Blades podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast, where we link to all the things: the BitChute, the Rumble, the YouTube, the TikTok, the Twitters. We go to Spotify, our Discord, our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. We have our Substack, our email, Blasters and Blades podcast at gmail.com. Again, Blasters and Blades podcast at gmail.com for professional purposes only, people. Save the shenanigans. I'm Stabby over there on the Instagram and Twitter and the email. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment sections for the podcast, and I promise I will help keep the lights on. These episodes are not free to produce, and every penny helps, so we greatly appreciate it. And whatever's left over, I will bribe Jana with more of her favorite Coca-Cola products. And he will send love because
Seriously.
she is a nice, kind lady who would never get mad at someone for sending her Coke products instead of Dr. Pepper.
I don't get mad. I just get even.
She would even drink them on stream for you. All right, and with that, thank you for
Wrap it up, man.
Yeah, she's starting to get all murder hobo looking. So thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley. This was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And don't forget to send Coke products to Jenna. And with that, we are out.